Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and in this bonus episode, we're going to have a brief introduction of AJ Orlikoff, who is the head of programming and interim president of historic Congressional Cemetery in Washington, D.C. He is a member of our advisory board, and we are doing profiles of them for the next several weeks. So this is the next one. He does a great introduction of himself, so I'll let him do it, and then I will catch you on the other side with a couple updates that I think you need to know for this week and going forward. Here's AJ. In this bonus episode, we are going to be talking with AJ Orlikoff about his new job and his old job. So let me get you to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I'm AJ Orlikoff. I'm the interim president and director of programming at Historic Congressional Cemetery. I love my job. I love what I do, and I'm really happy to be here talking to you about it.
Now, how does one get to be the program director of, it's a prestigious cemetery. So I guess most prestigious cemeteries have directors of programming, but that's not something that I don't think you see in the paper very often.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think this is, I don't want to speak for all historic cemeteries here, but there is not exactly a track in, when I got my master's degree in history, there wasn't exactly courses on programming at a historic cemetery. And so we all come, I think, in this sort of space, we all come at it from sort of different angles. But at least for me, I'm a historian. I got my bachelor's and master's degree in history from Old Dominion University. I'm from Southern Virginia, the Norfolk area. And I really came at it from a passion of a historian and history. And I've always loved military history. And so I've sort of been on that. And I worked at a couple of military museums for different commands as a contractor, both for the Navy and the Army. And when I found this opportunity comes up at a Congressional Cemetery, I knew Jackie prior, and she told me about this opportunity that came up here, our prior president, Jackie Spanauer. It was something where I felt like, wow, that it might seem very different, but actually there's a lot of commonalities at historic cemeteries and historic sites as you would at a museum. So, well, it's not exactly the same. And trust me, a cemetery has a way of reminding you what it is, a cemetery.
Right.
And so I came in here and, that's sort of how I got the gig.
So I have to say that, I studied history myself. I only got a bachelor's degree, but I can't imagine getting anything done if I was locked in a room with all of that historical information at my fingertips.
Right.
I might just open up the archives and then next thing I know, I'm fired and have been fired for 6 months and,
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Do you get much access and how do you balance that with the rest of the things that you're asked to? Because, it's legitimate work, right? You're looking for stuff that you can present that's new and different. So there's only one way to do that, right?
Well, yeah, I think if, as the director of programming here and a historian, you got to know your history. You got to know the history. You have to know the site. You have to do your work because if you're seen as an authority on something, you need to be that. You need to be an authority on something, but you have to moderate that, with your workflow, just like you would at any job. It's very easy, to again, get lost in an archive, to get lost out there really amongst the stones and just being like, who is this? Who is this person? Oh my gosh, they're represented here too. Oh, I didn't know someone from this war was buried here or this story is here. Oh my gosh, what an interesting tombstone. It's very easy to get caught up in all that stuff and to get overwhelmed. But, it's just like any job. You align your workflows and then you go from there.
So you've been here for 3 years. Have you initiated programs? Have you changed programs in a way that you're particularly proud of or a particular program that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I would say that. I'm particularly proud of how I have actually implemented a little bit some more formal historical education programming. And, this is it's interesting here is Congressional Cemetery has always been a little zany, a little different, very quirky in the sense of the institution's history is very, very different. It went through periods of prosperity, periods of, across the 207 years of the cemetery's existence. It's been through periods of prosperity, periods of decline. And so really, this place has really come back as a result of the community, and that's led to a lot of community programs. We have movie nights here, Cinematary. We have Soul Strolls, which is live outdoor historic theater. We have a canine program, a dog walking program. They already had a lot of this atypical kind of zanier programming when I walked
Right.
into this job. And so, of course, I love those programs. I'm so proud of the work we have done on those programs. But really, the initiatives I did were to implement some more formal programming. So I implemented something called the Cemetery Speaker Series, where we speak with different experts on a historical topic, and we combine that with a docent-led tour. And we've also done a lot of military sort of ceremonial programming. I've developed a relationship here with the District of Columbia National Guard, who has a lot of their history here, a lot of guardsmen buried here throughout their early history. And we've developed a lot of different programs with them, sort of the military ceremony type deal, where you have, the color guard and you have speakers and then the commanding general comes out. We've done that in a few different ways. So I'm really, really proud of how we've kind of taken this baseline of this zany, this crazy programming that's kind of a little out there, a little different, and really married that, I think, with what's more formal programming, which I think is actually the opposite of how most people would approach it or have to approach it.
Yes, but I think that's exciting because what you're doing is like you don't have to get the people who are interested in history to walk dogs. You've already got the dog walkers there. You can say, "Hey, this is something else we offer." People can see it more as an enriching thing because they already see the cemetery as a place to come and walk, and now it's a place to come and learn.
Right, exactly. We have that in so many different ways. So many different ways you can experience history here, whether that's a zany program like Soul Strolls, whether that's a lecture, whether that's a walking tour. I guess the big thing is I'm all about history, and that's what I've kind of led with here.
And so what do you see for like the future of and the present, like the very near future
Mhm.
of cemetery issues and the things that you'd like to see covered and explored, programmatic and also non-programmatic, if you think.
Sure. So for historic cemeteries, I'll speak really from the historic cemetery angle because that's my experience. I don't
Mm.
mean to speak for everybody, but historic cemeteries, I do with sort of hearing my colleagues, I do have a good handle on this. The big issue that many historic cemeteries are having, not all, is they're running out of space. They're running out of plots. They're running out of things like that. And, these properties are expensive to maintain. And so how do you align, not just for the next 10 years, how do you align the future of historic cemeteries to last for the next 100 years when there's going to be no plots available? And that is the identity crisis that I think is at the heart of what's going on with historic cemeteries right now. And so it's a challenge. And really, I think the way forward, historic cemeteries have to develop into places of programming, places of life, places where people come and visit and support outside of a funeral service, right? Cemeteries, I think, images in modern society, people see cemeteries sometimes as these dour, depressing places that you don't want to visit. And when you do visit, it's on the worst day of your life because you're
Right.
burying a loved one. And so, how do you take this image of cemeteries? How do you take this stigma around a place of death, a place of rest? How do you take that? How do you make that a place of life? How do you make that a place that people want to support? Because that's something we have to do, or these cemeteries are gonna not be able to be maintained, and that's the last thing we'd want, right? So, how do you affect that transformation? How do you change the culture around places of death to be places that people want to come outside of that funeral, outside of that. And so building that means programming. Building that means, of course, sort of we're a nonprofit, so maybe a little different, but certainly for us, we're relying on donors and building a culture of nonprofit giving. That
Uh,
is a major, major component of where we're at, especially because we're a little more in running out of space a little sooner than in other
mhm.
cemeteries. So really that's where we're at, is like, how do we affect this transformation? How do we make these cemeteries last for the next 100 years?
And as far as your position on the board now, you got switched out with your former supervisor and
Right.
onto the board. So I know this is kind of catching you short because it wasn't
No,
your idea
no.
to say yes. But what do you look forward to as being a member of the board, and what do you hope that you can accomplish as a board member?
Sure. Well, I do think I have some unique insight that I can provide, coming from a background where I'm not a death care professional. I'm a historian.
Mm,
But I am now, of course, death care professional. You can't be the leader of a cemetery without being a death care
right.
professional, of course. But my background is not in death care, right? And so I think I do have some unique insights I can provide from the historian standpoint, from someone who's not been in that world. And I'm really hopeful that those insights can be really useful to all of us because this is so important to me. It's near and dear to my heart. Cemeteries are such amazing places. And I just really, really, really think we have such an amazing opportunity as a society, both in the United States and abroad to really change. I do think there's a paradigm shift going on related to sort of what I spoke to before about cemeteries transforming as spaces, death in society transforming as a concept from something avoided to something that is talked about more and is embraced. And I think we're in the midst of that cultural transformation. It's in the zeitgeist. It's happening now. And I'm really hopeful that my voice can be useful to the board as we all move forward in this space.
Excellent. And that is really all I have for you, unless you have something else for me. Is there something I should have asked and didn't, or something you thought you'd get the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it?
No, I think that just about covers it. I'm really excited and grateful for the opportunity. And, like I said, this stuff is very, very important to me. And it's an honor to be part of the board and it's an honor to contribute my insights and thoughts.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
This episode of Brief Introduction is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. Please subscribe wherever you're listening. Now, if you are a new listener and are listening on your computer, you can subscribe on your phone by opening the podcatcher of your choice and typing the words Funeral Service Insider. We're the only podcast with that name, so we're easy to find. And if you do subscribe, I should let you know that every Friday we do In Case You Missed It, which is a weekly news roundup program about news in the funeral industry. That also has a video component, which is just my great huge head on YouTube. And you can find that by either following Kates-Boylston on YouTube, which you should probably do anyway, because we put up a lot of our webinars and things on YouTube as well. And that will do it for this week on Brief Introduction from Kates-Boylston. We will check in with you Friday.